Hi, friends. Welcome to your September Tarotscope, where we're going to look at the overall energies for the month of September 2023. We'll start with overall vibes, then we'll talk about challenges that may come up this month, gifts that are available to us, and we'll end with some advice. If you're interested in a personal reading, you can find the link below in the description box. I offer on-demand tarot readings delivered within 72 hours and also offer live readings over Zoom. All right, let's get into it. So to start off, let's look at the overall energy of the month. So we have the 10 of Torches in reverse, 10 of Wands in reverse, and then the High Priestess. So with the 10 of Wands in reverse, it feels like we're setting down a really big burden this month. But there also might be this desire to maybe close something out faster than it's ready to be closed out. So we need to be mindful about trying to rush through things to get to the finish line, especially if we're burnt out, especially if we're exhausted. Ideally, take a beat and check in with yourself, because with the High Priestess coming up as a secondary energy here, it feels like our intuition is on fire this month, and like we're really tapping into that knowing, that place within that is our eternal source of wisdom. And so I would encourage you to constantly practice coming back to your own knowing throughout this month, maybe more so than you usually do, because it feels like part of this journey that we might be closing out collectively is about laying to rest long-held burdens that we've kind of intuitively known needed to be ending or needed to be closed out. But in the past, we may have denied that knowing. And so you might get reminders this month of sort of like thumbs up signals that show you that you're on the correct path, or that show you that your intuition is correct. So look out for those nudges, look out for those signals from your guides. Let's look at the challenges we may face this month. So we have the Queen of Pentacles and Judgment. So with the Queen of Pentacles, this could be a person in your life who's coming through, and you may be in conflict with this person, or this may just be a relationship that you're closing out. If not, you may be showing up as the Queen of Pentacles yourself. This is Earth energy, technically Capricorn, but it could be any of the Earth signs. So Taurus or Virgo could also be significant here. With Judgment, again, this could be that there's some degree of recognition or understanding that you're coming to when it comes to a relationship with a Queen of Pentacles person. Or if that is not external, if it's about you and you resonate with that energy, then it could be that there's some need for you to develop a stronger sense of self-awareness and to recognize yourself for who you are. And that doesn't have to be like critical self-awareness. That could be you recognizing your power, your growth, your ability to navigate tough life situations and circumstances, which it feels like has really been highlighted for you lately, because the Queen of Pentacles is a solid figure. They are stable. They are someone who can provide for themselves and for others. There's someone who kind of holds it down, who's trustworthy, reliable, grounded, down to earth, and someone who really knows how to make the most of the resources that are available to them. So again, with this coming up in the challenge position, it feels more like an invitation to embody those characteristics yourself. Or it could be more external, that there's someone in your life who kind of represents that energy, and that there's a need for you to bring more self-awareness into that relationship. Next, moving on to our gifts that are available to us this month, we have the King of Wands or the King of Torches upright and the Moon in reverse. So this is interesting because physically on the table, these are placed directly below the overall energy, which was also Wands, and then the High Priestess, and they're mirroring each other. So I'll show you. Our overall energy was the 10 of Torches in reverse. If we can get that to focus, maybe not. Well, you can see the blurry version. There we go. And then the gift that I mentioned is the King of Wands upright. And then our other overall energy was the High Priestess upright, and our gift is the Moon in reverse. So we have this mirroring energy that's happening here. And I say that because the High Priestess and the Moon are sort of connected in some way. They're both this sort of watery lunar energy that is deeply intuitive. But when we see the Moon in reverse, it can sometimes mean that our intuition is Maybe that we're tuning into fear instead of intuition. Maybe that there's a subconscious voice that could be leading us astray, and that could be the voice of fear, anxiety, suspicion, even paranoia in some cases. And the fact that we have that appearing below the high priestess tells me that the gift is in the recognition of what is not true versus what is true. So it brings me back to that earlier message about the high priestess and how we're getting signals about what we're right about. We're getting signals about how our intuition is on point. And it feels like part of that process is identifying what's not on point. And so for a lot of us, this could be that we're getting much better at identifying and sort of distinguishing the voice of fear from the voice of intuition. And that we're probably going to have repetitive opportunities to do so because we might come face to face with our fears. We might practice being with our fear and sort of sending love and compassion to our fear, to the part of us that experiences fear. And with the King of Wands upright as a sort of response to this overall energy of the Ten of Wands in the reverse, it feels like we're seizing a torch, we're seizing a wand, and we're really stepping forward with more confidence and more self-possession. And so I feel like for most of us, this might happen after Mercury stations direct. We're currently in Mercury retrograde, which began on August 23rd, and Mercury will station direct on September 15th. But Venus is also retrograde right now as I'm recording this. And Venus will be retrograde until September 3rd. So we have this period from now, I'm recording this on October 25th, from now through September 3rd, when we have two really significant planets that are relational in many ways retrograde. And so this period of time is really an opportune moment for review and for reflecting on what's going on within us, what's operating within us, how our fear speaks, how our intuition speaks, and how those show up in our relationships since we're still in Venus retrograde. When Venus stations direct on September 3rd, I get the sense that a lot of that relational material that came up over the past 40 days or so is going to come into focus, and we might then move toward more of a phase of analysis. Whereas Venus retrograde kind of brings us into our heart and often brings us into our shadows, Mercury retrograde brings us into our mind and asks us to see things differently. And so all of the information, all of the stuff that we've gleaned about ourselves and our relational habits and our patterns and our wounds and our gifts and all of this stuff that's come up throughout Venus retrograde, I feel like we're then kind of turning to the mind and saying, how can I begin to think about this differently? How can I now put new thought patterns into place? And what is left? How are maybe the wounds of the heart showing up in my mind? And so what else needs to be healed here? What else needs to be kind of understood or seen through different eyes? And so all of that feels like material that's going to be with us for the first half of September. And then again, when Mercury stations direct on September 15th, which occurs just after our new moon in Virgo on September 14th, that's a powerful moment for you to set intentions for maybe new thought patterns that you want to put into place. And so with that, let me move on to our advice. We have the Two of Wands in reverse and the Magus or the Magician upright. So the Two of Wands in reverse as advice is telling me to hold off on, or telling me, I guess me, but also you, to hold off on any rash decisions, to, if possible, delay important conversations, important decisions until after Mercury retrograde. That's not always possible, and it's okay if you have to sign a contract, have an important conversation, make a big choice before September 15th. That's human. But for those of us who can postpone and delay something and take more time to chew on it, definitely take that opportunity. This is not a time for boldly setting intentions and trying to like manifest or trying to do magic or any of that stuff. That would be better done closer to September 15th and beyond for the second half of the month. So that's speaking to this first half. The second half of the month, we are though seeing this Magician energy coming into focus. And so once Mercury retrograde ends and we have both Venus and Mercury direct, and we're coming off of that new moon in Virgo energy, that is a time to sort of pick up that wand and start visioning and creating the life that you want for yourself. And I say that because in part, Virgo can be a beautiful time to vision and actually add detail, add information, perform, like do research. Virgo is actually a really magical sign, and the magus, the magician, is connected to Mercury, which is the planetary ruler of Virgo. So using our words as spells, treating our words as spells, using language, using the way that we speak to ourselves and to others and to our guides, and just in general, what we write, what we speak, what we say, using that as a way to manifest the outcomes that we want for ourselves. And that means actually being intentional. That means being thoughtful. That means being discerning. And if you hear yourself speaking to yourself in a way that is unkind, or in a way that's really self-limiting or even self-harmful, take a moment and just take note of it. Pay attention to it. And I recommended this in our Virgo season Akashic, which is live for patrons. So if you want to become a patron, you can follow the link in my bio to listen to that too. And that featured more personal advice with a pick a card, mini pick a card reading at the end with personal predictions. And one of the messages that came out of that was really focused on how we speak to ourselves, on taking a beat, on even writing down intrusive thoughts and sort of like coming back to them at a later date when you can engage with them with more compassion, instead of trying to do that when you're in an activated state. And so I'm going to recommend that to you too. If that happens for you throughout the month of September, if you notice intrusive thoughts, if you notice self-limiting beliefs coming up, try writing them down and try coming back to them when you're in a more grounded place. And the final wisdom, let's go ahead and consult the Astro Dice to get a little bit more information about maybe where we should place our focus through the month of September. So we have Venus, Leo, and the 12th house. So it does feel like some type of spiritual practice here could be really powerful, and maybe that's an act of devotion to yourself. Maybe it's having a Friday, which is Venus day, or Monday night, which is Venus night after sundown. Maybe it's developing some type of self-loving ritual where we tune into Leo energy. Leo rules the heart, and Leo can bring us into compassion and generosity of spirit. And so how can you be more compassionate and generous with yourself? That might be a question to keep asking yourself throughout September. How can I be more compassionate to myself? How can I be more generous with myself? And how can I maybe ask for spiritual support in that by consulting my guides, by consulting my ancestors? Maybe it's developing a spiritual practice that revolves around beauty, whatever beauty means to you. Venus brings us into the way that we experience and perceive beauty, and that is a unique experience for every individual based on your Venus sign, house, the interactions it has with other planets in your chart, how it's being lit up by the planets in the sky at this moment. There are so many things that go into the way we experience pleasure, beauty, joy, connection. And so spending time examining that and questioning that, especially in these last few days of Venus retrograde, the first 3 days of September, and then onward through the rest of September, when Venus will still be in her post retrograde shadow period, where there's a lot of integration happening. And again, Mercury retrograde is kind of putting extra emphasis on that by bringing it into the mind. And so you might want to write, you might want to journal, you might want to speak to your voice notes app and process things in whatever way makes sense to you. Okay? That's all for now. Again, if you're interested in a personal reading, you can find the link in the description box. If this was valuable, please do like, comment, share, subscribe. All of that really helps me as I build out this channel. All right, y'all, sending you love. Happy September.